So hello everyone. My name's, as I said before, my name is Angie. I'm the program manager for the Business Center Guelph-Wellington. Today is, I believe, our last official workshop for Small Business Month. So we are moving out of Small Business Month into November next week. We wouldn't believe it's November already. Kind of insane. And so with that, today we are joined by Nicole Haney. She's going to be talking to us about sales. So Nicole, I'll just let you introduce yourself and jump in. If you are watching this though, after the fact, whether through YouTube, on Facebook, or any other formats, and you have any questions, feel free to send us an email, success@guelphbusiness.com, or comment on the video itself, and I will be monitoring those over the next little while as well. So Nicole, it's all you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Angie, for the introduction. I'm just going to share my screen here and get the presentation up because I do have some slides to share with you guys today. So, as Angie mentioned, today we are talking about how to get more sales. So, to get started, I want to give you guys a little bit of background about me and about my experience, so that you guys have a bit of an understanding as to why it is I'm qualified to talk to you about how to actually get sales in your business. So I'm Nicole. I'm a business coach, a professional speaker, and a business professor. But prior to doing that, I was actually scaling a food business full-time for almost 5 years. So the idea for that business started back in 2015 when I was working in just a regular desk job, a regular corporate job. And I was going to literally, I'm not kidding, the same beige cubicle, the same white desk every single day, day in and day out, doing much the same thing over and over and over again for almost 10 years. And so I got to the point where I started to get really bored with my career and I started to feel really unfulfilled. And so I started looking around for different careers and different things that I could do. And I didn't know what that was going to look like at the time, but I did know that I am very into health and wellness. I am still very into health and wellness. So I work out every single day. I eat a clean whole food diet. It's really a huge part of my life and my identity and who I am as a person. However, I also really love dessert, right? So anybody else that's with me, cookies, cakes, donuts, brownies, like literally any dessert, you put it in front of me, I'm likely going to devour it. But those two things typically do not go hand in hand, right? Living a healthy lifestyle and eating a whole lot of dessert all the time. And so I have been looking around on the market for a healthier version of dessert. I wanted something that was just clean, just whole food ingredients, no refined sugar, and I wanted it to be gluten and dairy free. And needless to say, I couldn't find that, right? It's a pretty tall order for a dessert. And so I just started playing around with my own recipes in my home kitchen and just started kind of making this stuff for myself, literally just as a hobby. And then eventually, when I was going on a business trip and I needed some sort of a quick grab and go snack to bring with me, I made myself an energy bar. And that energy bar was really what kind of started it all. Because I brought this bar with me on this trip. I started sharing it with friends and colleagues and all the people that were there with me. And they started to tell me how good this energy bar truly was. So I made the decision at that point in time that I was going to quit my corporate job and start a health food bakery. So it took me about 3 months. I built up the courage and I eventually dove in to the food industry without any experience in the industry. I did not have a business education at the time, and I had no investment. So I had just a normal amount of savings going into my business. I was really bootstrapping it in the early days. So that business started out as a tiny health food bakery at a local farmer's market. And over the next 4.5 years, I was actually able to scale it to a national level. So we were supplying about 300 retailers coast to coast across Canada with these energy bars. And I built it up to multiple 6 figures in revenue. So it was cool. It was definitely the adventure that I needed at the time. And when I went into it, I did not know how to do sales. I learned how to do sales boots on the ground through real world experience and basically through having to in order to make my business more successful. Just like you guys, right? This is where you guys are at right now if you're on this call today. So I did that for almost 5 years. And then eventually I started to realize that the food industry was not the right fit for me. And I started to pivot out of that space and into the business education space. So now I'm an international business coach, helping entrepreneurs from across the world navigate the challenges of entrepreneurship and overcome the obstacles of running a business. I'm also a business professor for a postgraduate business management program, and I'm a professional speaker for academic institutions and small business centers across Canada and the US, including Ivy Business School, California State University, and SBDC, New York. So that's what I do now. So enough about me. Let's talk about sales. Let's get into it. So at the end of the day, when we all get into business, sales is not the first thing that we are thinking about, right? We are all trying to create the very best product or service that we can possibly create out there on the market. And then we get into it and we start to realize, oh, if I want to grow this thing, if I want to earn more revenue, if I want to make this my full-time gig, I'm going to have to go out and do sales. But for most of us, we don't have traditional sales training, right? And even if we do, some of that traditional sales training often just doesn't work once you get into doing actual sales for your own business. So at the end of the day, all sales comes down to is answering 4 really basic questions about your business. And I'm going to walk you through each of these questions today. So the first question is, who is my customer? We need to get really crystal clear on who it is that we are speaking to when we are doing sales so that we can craft all of our marketing and all of our sales conversations around this specific person that we are talking to. The second question you need to answer is, what does my customer want from my product or service? This is something that almost all of us miss, right? Because we think we just have a really great product or service, we think that's going to be enough. And typically we create that product or service around a need or desire that we have. And sometimes that's not the need or the desire that our customer has. So we really need to think about what is it that they want from us. Then we need to answer the question of where is this person looking for this product or service, right? Because it is far easier to get in front of your customer where they're already looking for what you offer than trying to reinvent the wheel and pull people into you in a very unknown territory, a space where they're not looking for this type of thing. And then the fourth and final question is, how can I convince them to buy from me, right? This is what we all want to do. So yes, we can identify our customer, we can figure out what it is they want from us, and we can get in front of them. But if we don't actually convert them, then we're not bringing more revenue into our business. So we need to be able to convert those customers once we're in front of them. So the first question of who is my customer? What we need to do is determine your target market. Now, again, it is super important to get really, really crystal clear on who it is exactly that you're trying to get in front of. So there was a really cool study that was done out of Harvard by a name of, I think, Gerald Zaltman. He's a Harvard professor. And he did this cool study that showed that 95%, this is a scientific study, 95% of all of our buying decisions are actually made subconsciously. So even though we think that we are making buying decisions based on tons of logical factors, right? Based on what is the price point? What is the quality of this product or service? What is the sugar content or the calories if you have, let's say, a food product? We all think that we're making these buying decisions based on logical factors. And it turns out, even though we think that, we're actually not. We are making our buying decisions subconsciously. So what that means for us as entrepreneurs, and what I initially thought of right away was, How can I do this? How can I make this happen? If I have a product or service and I have a business and I want to sell this product or service to other human beings, how can I subconsciously appeal to them in a way that's going to draw them in and make them interested in what I have to offer? So, to do that, we of course need to know exactly who it is you're talking to, right? Now, I also think it's really important that we note that your product is not necessarily for everyone, even if you have a product or service that you think everyone could benefit from, right? So I usually use the example of cupcakes because most people love a cupcake, right? But there's going to be a specific subset of the population that likes your cupcakes more than everybody else. And that's who we have to hone in on if we want to create marketing and branding and sales techniques that subconsciously appeal to that person. So when I started my business and I had my health food bakery, I was offering healthy brownies. So these brownies were gluten-free, they were vegan, they were made with all natural ingredients, no refined sugar, and handcrafted, really high quality vegan brownies. And I was selling them for $4 a piece. And so those brownies were not for everybody. I would occasionally have, a 65-year-old man come up to my booth at the farmer's market and say, "Oh my goodness, $4 for a brownie. How can you get away with selling a brownie for $4?" Right? And the reason that he felt that way is because this product wasn't for him. He would go to a grocery store and buy, let's say, a bag of 2-bite brownies for a few dollars. So he felt like a $4 brownie was highway robbery, right? Whereas my customer who was looking for a gluten-free vegan brownie, that person was more than happy to pay the $4 price point. And truly, a lot of my customers didn't really care how much it cost because they were thrilled to find a product that suited their needs. So this is what you need to hone in on. Find that customer who is thrilled to find your product and then base everything around that person. Okay, so the second question that we need to be answering here is, what does my customer want from this product or service, right? Now, this is something that a lot of us forget about because we've all created this product from our own hearts and our own desires and our own problems that we're solving for ourselves. And sometimes that is the same problem that you are solving for your customers, but sometimes it's not. So we have to be really careful about making those assumptions. Now, the most successful businesses out there solve a problem for their customers and position their product or service as the solution to their customers' problems. And going even a step beyond that, the most successful businesses out there position their product or service as happiness, right? So I heard recently that in sales, you want to sell the vacation, not the airplane. So let me explain this to you guys for a second. When you see an airline ad, right? Never do you see an airline ad that is telling you all about the cushions on the seats that you're going to sit in, or the amount of legroom. Sometimes they mention the legroom, but that's really not the focus of their commercials or advertisements, right? You never would see an airline commercial that's talking about the in-flight movies, right? Or the horrible airline food that you're going to get on the airplane. That's not what you see when you watch an airline ad. What you see is them telling you how much you are going to enjoy your vacation in Maui. Because that is what people want. They do not want a cushy airplane seat. They want a vacation in Maui, right? That's what they care about. And so we all need to be selling the vacation, selling the happiness factor, making our customers feel something in the positioning of our product, right? So oftentimes I'll talk about McDonald's as another really great example. So I'll ask people, what do you think McDonald's sells, right? And oftentimes people will say McDonald's sells hamburgers. Or if people are really into business models, they might say McDonald's is a landlord, right? So they make their money on rent. But truly, at the end of the day, what McDonald's is selling you, it's not a hamburger. They're selling you an experience. They're selling you the idea that if you and your spouse and your two small kids come to McDonald's on a Friday evening, that you're going to sit down and you're going to enjoy a happy meal. They literally have a meal called a happy meal, right? That you're going to have this incredible experience with your family that's going to bring your family closer together, and everybody is going to leave feeling happier. So that's what we want to sell. The happiness factor, the happy meal, the vacation. Do not ever sell the airplane. Now, the next question that you have to answer is, where is my customer looking for this product or service? So the idea that we all have in our heads when we start our businesses is, if I make the best product out there, if I make the best service out there, that people will come. Because of course they will. I have the best thing out there, and that's what people want. They want the best energy bar. They want the best social media manager, right? That's what they're looking for. But the reality is, this idea of if I build it, they will come is simply not true. People will not come to you. And this is an experience that most of us have when we start our businesses, right? You launch your e-commerce site, you launch your social media, you tell people, like, if you want these articles of clothing that I've been talking about for the last 6 months and telling you I'm going to launch this t-shirt business, and boom, now we're launching it. Today's the day. We all think that we're going to get tens of thousands of dollars in sales in the first couple of days. And what ends up happening most times is you get one sale, and then you get another sale, and then crickets, right? And this is because people will not come to you. You have to go to them. And when I say you have to go to them, what you want to be doing is going to them in places that they're already looking. So I had a client come to me with a bagel product, not a traditional bagel, but kind of a bagel type product. And he was like, Nicole, we are going to do the coolest thing ever. We're going to be the Gymshark of bagels. We're going to sell our bagels solely online through our e-commerce site, and that's it. People are going to come to us for bagels on our e-commerce site. It's going to be great. And I was like, cool idea, cool idea. I can help you with this. We can talk about ads and ad spend. We can talk about sales funnels and driving traffic to your e-commerce store, and how do you convert them once we get them onto your page. Like, I can help you with all of those things. We can do this if that's the direction you decide to go in. But I have to tell you, I really think you're making this harder on yourself than it needs to be. Because I said, I want you to tell me, where is it that you currently buy bagels, right? And he was like, yeah, okay, yes, you're right. I go to the grocery store and I buy bagels on Saturday when I'm shopping for all the rest of my groceries. And so I will just pop them into my grocery cart with the rest of my groceries, and I'll have them for the week, and then next week I buy more. And I was like, cool, that's great. Are there any other places where you buy bagels? And he was like, yeah, like sometimes if I'm stopping by Timmy's on my way to work to grab a coffee, I might also grab a bagel because maybe I missed breakfast. I was busy getting the kids out the door and I just needed to grab something on my way to work. Awesome. Is there anywhere else that you buy bagels? And he thought about it for a minute and he was like, sometimes if I'm sitting down with like a colleague or another professional, I go to a local cafe and I'm hungry, so I'll also order a bagel alongside my coffee or my tea or whatever I'm drinking. And I was like, great. So you've now said that you buy your bagels in a grocery store, in a coffee shop, and in a cafe. But at no point in time did you say that you buy your bagels online. And he was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I do not buy my bagels online. And so this is the thing. It's not impossible to drive traffic to an e-commerce site and get people to buy bagels on that e-commerce site. It is not impossible to pull the audience into where you want them to look, but it is much, much easier to have a push strategy than a pull strategy, right? It's much easier to get in front of your customers where they're already looking and push the product to them than it is to try and pull them to you. We call this push and pull in business, right? So it is a far easier strategy to do a push strategy than a pull strategy. And you need to be putting yourself into your customer's shoes to be thinking about, where is this person already looking, right? So you have to think, I'm going to walk into the grocery store, I'm going to go to the bagel aisle, and I am going to look for the type of bagels that I usually buy. And right beside that type of bagels is a new type of bagels. And I see it and I'm like, what is this? I think I need to try this. I'd like to try something new this week. And you grab that bag of bagels and you put it in your cart. That's how you need to be thinking, is putting yourself into your customer's shoes. Okay, so the last question that you need to ask yourself and you need to answer in order to effectively do sales is, how can I actually convince people to buy from me? So once you figure out who exactly it is you are talking to, you figure out what it is they want from you, and you figure out where you can best get in front of them where they're already looking. Well, now we need to figure out, how do we convert somebody who is just kind of interested in your brand, just sort of looking at it, experiencing it, into somebody who actually takes their hard-earned dollars out of their wallet and buys your product or service. Now, I've mentioned this a few times throughout today's session, which is, most people think that sales is about having the very best product or the very best service, right? We all think that we have to have the most delicious hot sauce or the very best widget out there. Or Angie and I were talking about laptops before we started today's session. A lot of us, if we were making laptops, we would think we need to have the highest quality, the highest line laptop out there in order to sell it to other people, right? But the reality is, sales is actually more about building relationships with other human beings than it is about having the very best product or service out there. Now, I know that this is a super controversial thing I am saying, because most people will say, whoa, 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 I have to have a good product though, right? And the answer to that question is yes, you do indeed have to have a good product. You have to follow through on the promises that you are making to that consumer. And for most of us, we are making a promise that our product or service is really fantastic. That does have to be true. But you could have the absolute best social media management service on the face of the planet. And if you are not building relationships with your customers, you will still be very hard up to get sales and convert people in your business. At the end of the day, people are going to remember how you made them feel far more than anything that you said, or even how good your product is. So the question that of course comes up right after I say this is, how do I actually do this? How do I execute on this, right? So there's two key things that you need to do in order to build a relationship with your consumer. And that is, you have to get their trust, you have to build trust with them, and you have to earn credibility. All right. So people need to trust that you are not just trying to take money out of their wallet, right? We are so used to being sold to at this point in time. Everybody is being sold everything on a constant basis. We're seeing ads come up all the time in our social media feeds, even on our streaming services now are plagued with ads, like ads everywhere, right? People need to trust that this is not just another product that you're trying to sell them, that this isn't just another ad that they're seeing in their feed. They also need to believe you when you say that your product or service is the best. You need to earn credibility with them, right? So the way that you do this is twofold. In terms of building trust, what you need to do is open up and be vulnerable. And I know that's terrifying. I totally get it, because I also am terrified of doing this. I think everybody is, right? If you've ever heard Brene Brown talk about vulnerability, she has a lot of really great tips and insights, but she says vulnerability is hard. It is not easy, and it doesn't really get easier. But the only way to build trust with other people is by opening up and being a bit vulnerable. So you have to share with people why you are doing this. You have to tell your story, right? So on your website, on your About Us page, this should not just be more information about your product or service. This should be about you and why you started this business and why you're doing this and the passion that's driving everything behind what you're doing. If you've ever heard the term build in public, that is something we're seeing a lot more often nowadays. There's a couple of really great brands out there in the food space that are doing this very effectively. So last week, I ran a business conference here in London, where I'm from, and Jake Carls of Midday Squares was our keynote speaker. And so Midday Squares is a functional chocolate bar company based out of Montreal. They started about 5 years ago, and they are now at $17 million in revenue. So massive, massive company at this point. And Jake was actually named Forbes Top 30 Under 30 for this year. So they are out there crushing it. And one of the ways that they have done this is by building trust with their consumers. They are building their business in public. They are showing the behind the scenes of not just making a chocolate bar, but also building a brand and building a business. They show a lot of their own stuff from the three founders as well, right? So they are building in public and showing what goes into building their business. In terms of credibility, getting credibility for your business requires doing something that makes most of us feel really very uncomfortable, and that is bragging. You have to do a little bit of bragging because at the end of the day, people want to bet on a winning horse, for lack of a better way of saying it, right? So people, consumers, will get behind your brand. And even if you're selling B2B, if you have a product that or a service that you're selling into other businesses, it is the same thing. Your business needs to have credibility behind it because you will earn that loyalty and that trust of the consumer if they can see that you're already succeeding. So you want to be telling people about your successes. Anything that you can talk about. Did you get a news feature on a local news station recently? Was there an article written about you in a local business magazine or a paper? Have you seen a ton of success since you started your business, right? When we look at brands like Midday Squares, they are doing this. I know that Jake Carls was top 30 under 30 by Forbes because he told the world about it, right? He didn't keep that a secret. He accomplished something and then he went out and shared it with the public. Now, when I told you guys that Midday Squares is a $17 million business, did that not immediately position them into a position of credibility in your mind, right? Of course it did, because that is a massive success. You look at them now and you say, this is a great brand and I want to follow in their footsteps. So building credibility is incredibly important when it comes to building a brand and building an audience of raving fans that will actually start buying from you and turn into loyal customers. Okay, so that is it for today's presentation. I did want to leave some time here at the end for questions, but I did want to share some contact details with you guys as well. So my Instagram is It's Nicole Haney. If you wanted to follow me, you can DM me with your questions as well. I'm happy to respond in the DMs. My website is NicoleHaney.com. Keeping it simple for you guys, it is just my name. So if you are looking for some help or a business coach to walk alongside you in your business, that is what I am here to do. So you can check that out on my website. And my podcast, where I share all sorts of business tips and mindset and personal growth when it comes to being an entrepreneur and going through this process. My podcast is called Goals and Gratitude, and it is available on Spotify. So that is it for me. I'll turn it back to Angie now.
That was wonderful. I always enjoy hearing everybody's process for sales and how they kind of got there. For those of you who are in the room, please stick around. I'm going to turn off the recording. For those of you who are watching this virtually later, please feel free to send us a message, again, success@guelphbusiness.com, or you can connect with Nicole directly if you have any questions, or you can even comment on any of the videos or presentations that we have, and I'll be happy to get back to you that way.